Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda as posted.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, let's get started on the first item, approval of design task services task order, Peonian Springs and Waterford Community System groundwater exploration phase.
Let's be sure that's silenced. Oh, it's not.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and the members of the committee. My name is Amulya Podel, Program Manager with Capital Programs Group. I am here to seek your approval on the design task order for Peonian Springs and Waterford Groundwater Investigations Project to Dewberry Engineers. This is one of the projects that we included in our informational item update in the last CIP meeting and board meeting. This is a project we're carrying out under the memorandum of understanding that we have with the county's water wastewater program. Loudon Water and Dewberry's cost will be fully reimbursed by the county. The project, the task order here up for consideration today benefits two communities in the area, Peonian and Waterford. Both have water, potable water needs. The task order we're bringing up for your consideration today will benefit both the projects. So this is a task order that's common to both the projects. Some information about the Board of Supervisors' action on these two projects. April 2022, the Board of Supervisors approved federal funds to the Peonian Springs portion of the project. 2023, the Board of Supervisors approved CIP funds to the design of the Waterford water system project. And along with that decision, board approval, the board also directed the county staff to look at the feasibility of a joint system that supports both communities. And what I mean by joint system is feasibility of locating a water system between the two villages, and then sending distribution pipes to each of the community. And on the wastewater side, pumping sewage from Peonian Springs to the existing wastewater treatment plant in Waterford. So upon board's direction to the staff, we got involved. Loudon Water, we selected Dewberry Engineers, one of our OWA consultant for the project. Just because of the nature of the project and the long duration of the design that it is, we determined that the most efficient way to move forward would be to package the overall projects into multiple task orders. Some of the early phase task order aerial survey and stuff have already been completed. The board approved, the joint system feasibility study is ongoing, and the board approved preliminary design work back in June meeting last year. Here we are today to seek your approval on the groundwater investigation. And then in the future, one likely in August this year and early next year, February 2025, we will have two more task order up for your consideration here at the meeting. In terms of schedule, the overall project schedule, the goal is to be done with design and permitting by the end of 2026. The task order that we will be talking here today, groundwater investigation, falls on the critical path of that overall schedule. So this is the schedule on this project is quite critical to maintain to be on track for 2026, end of 2026 completion of the project. So diving a little bit deeper into the task order here, we are for today. This is primarily a groundwater investigation task order. Groundwater investigation is typically carried in multiple phases. Phase 1 and 2 have already been completed, which included some desktop analysis and non-invasive field work out at the site. This task order here is for the next 4 phases. Phase 3 would be drilling some exploratory test wells. And then phase 4 is of those test wells, the ones determined to be suitable for permanent use. They will be converted to production well. And then there are like testing to make sure there is no impact to other existing wells in the community. And then it ends with a final hydrogeological report. And then Dewberry, as the prime consultant, they will be providing oversight. Emery and Garrett is the groundwater consultant for the project. Dewberry is our prime consultant, and they will provide oversight of Emery and Garrett's work on the project. Questions?
I have one, how are you going to determine the effects on existing wells? Are you going to have people going to the houses or how?
They will actually install monitoring. So they will select the existing wells. And then I think we're talking about 1,500, within 1,500 to 2,000 feet of these proposed future wells. And they will actually install equipments to measure what the drawdown is on the monitoring well. So that's, yeah, it's like in-field measurement over, I believe, 10 to 15 days. So it's a long-term monitoring of how drawing from these proposed wells would impact the existing wells.
The homeowners, I guess, get involved?
Yes, and that will all be handled by the county in terms when it comes to reaching out to the property owners. And yeah, that will all be handled by the county.
You won't have a question of, well, if you drill a well near my house, do I get water too?
We do get asked, but I kind of rely on the county.
Refer to the county.
Yes. And just to add to your question, Mr. Sultan, our engineering design manual, it's actually one of our requirements that any new well for the community system should not impact any of the existing wells in the area. So that's our standard requirement too.
Do we have a standard right of entry and indemnification agreement when we enter all of these folks' properties, or do they provide it to us? Each one different?
We will have that before there's any mobilization out to the site. We are in discussion with the county. The county attorney's office, they're trying to figure out what would be the right documentation and what would be the right way to approach the property owner. So that's an ongoing work that's happening right now, actually.
Do we have one?
Sometimes the property owners push back on the investigation piece, but that's in notification.
So the fee breakdown here, like I said, majority of work in this project is groundwater investigation. Emery and Garrett phased up, and Dewberry will be providing oversight for the overall work. Yes. Slide, snapshot of our CIP. So we're tracking on the CIP side, we're tracking Peonian Springs and Waterford as two separate projects. These two projects have different funding mechanism. Peonian Springs has federal funds involved, a much rigorous reporting requirements on that one. Waterford is a county CIP fund. So we've been tracking, but because this particular task order benefits is required for both projects, there will be some cost sharing between the project. And here's the snapshot for each of the project, Peonian Springs. The design phase of both projects are fully funded. Construction phase is not. And this is my last slide before the motion, so I'll kind of take a pause to see if any questions. I have the motion in front of you, Mr. Chairman.
I'll go ahead and make the motion.
Yeah.
Right. I move the recommendation to the board to approve the award of a design task order for Peonian Springs and Waterford groundwater investigation to Dewberry for an estimated cost of $644,295, with an approximate 5% contingency to be controlled by the general manager for a total authorized budget of $677,000. Additional costs will require board approval. I further recommend that this go on the consent agenda at the next board meeting.
Yeah, I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Again, this is the consent item. The next one is a water construction contract, Russell Branch Pump Station and Force Main.
Good morning again. I'm here to seek your approval on the award of construction contract for Russell Branch Sewer Pump Station project. Just a brief background on the project. Loudon Water, currently we own and operate a small pump station. This is in Aspen area, Route 7, Belmont Ridge Road. We have an existing pump station just under 0.5, half MGD pump station, which was built in 2006, primarily to serve the development here in this area. With the growth anticipated, we know in the sewer shed and the JLMA portion of the service area that was added to the county, there is a need for a larger pump station, which will be the new Russell Branch sanitary pump station. The new pump station will be located west of Belmont Ridge Road and just east of Goose Creek. So the Goose Creek is right here. So the new pump station will be just west of the creek. Jumping onto this slide here, the overall goal in the area here is we will be building a new 4.5 MGD pump station just west of Goose Creek. The existing smaller pump station will be decommissioned, and all the flow coming into this pump station will be diverted to the new pump station. There will be another stream of flow coming from the south. This will primarily bring the new flow from the new development. And then the pump station will discharge through this force main to gravity sewer east of Belmont Ridge Road. I have some couple pictures here to the right. This is a picture about 2 months old. This is a big construction site, 80 plus acres in construction right now. Our pump station is located. This here is the Goose Creek, and our project is in this location here. The second picture to the bottom is this is east of Belmont Ridge Road. This is where our existing pump station is. At the end of this project, we will decommission and demolish this pump station and restore the site. Scope of work, the majority of work in this project, this is a brand new pump station. Will be one of the larger pump station in our system. It has every element that we see on the pump station. So we're using dry pit submersible pumps. There will be odor control system, emergency storage tank, underground surge tank, and all other typical HVAC plumbing and stuff associated with the pump station. Vant is the developer working in the area. They will construct a road that kind of loops around their property, but we will, our pump station is about 500 feet from the road that they will build. So our contractor will have to build about 500 linear feet of access roadway to get to the pump station. The linear work on this project will be, the developer will install the pipes. So our contractor would still have to clean the pipe as needed and connect to the pipe that the developer will install. And upon completion of this new pump station, the contractor will be responsible to decommission and demolish the existing pump station. Any
So
questions?
you're saying that the other contractor is going to install the water main, but our contractor has to clean it?
No, so the other, not the water main, but the force main in particular is they will install it like in the next few months, and there will be that almost 2 years of gap before they become active. So what we will require our contractor is to make sure the force main is clean and everything before they make connection to that pipe.
Advantage Data Centers contractor is going to lay the pipe.
Yes,
What kind of pipe would that be?
ductile iron pipe.
Ductile iron.
Yeah. So the bids for this project opened May 15th. We got 4 bids, and as you see in the list here, all 4 known contractors known to Loudon Water. The engineer's estimate for the class 1 estimate for the project was $20.5 million. The bids came, I would say, pretty encouraging. If you look at it, the lower 3, the 3 low bids are a good tight cluster there. One of the high bid is a little above the engineer's estimate. Overall, we see this as a fairly competitive bid result here. Archer Western is the apparent low bidder. Archer Western is a contractor that's well known to Loudon Water. They are working on Goose Creek Pump Station project the construction is ongoing. They're working on a pump station project for Fairfax. They're currently working on a pump station project for Prince William County Service Authority. So well reputed contractor. We, partly for the reason that the low bid was slightly below engineer's estimate, we sat down with them just to make sure there was no missing of any high level scope of work. And we were very satisfied with their understanding of the project. No concerns on that end. We compared like engineer's estimate with their high level breakdown of cost. And again, there was no concern on this bid being lower than engineer's estimate. We checked some references, and after all this due diligence, we find Archer Western to be a responsive and responsible contractor for this project.
Could you go back to that slide for a second?
Sure.
Number 2 and number 3 bid, number 2 very close. I don't recognize the names. Have we used those two before?
Norier has worked, I know they have worked on Loudon Waters project, not in the last 4 or 5 years. I cannot remember exactly which project, but I know I've seen, do you?
Well, the reason I point out is I'm really glad to see that the other people are responding to our RFQs. That's very good.
Yeah, I think Norier constructed our wax pool sanitary pump station.
Okay.
Kakosing is the phase 2.
Phase 2 expansion, yeah, right. I recognize that. Good.
So schedule here, upon board's approval of this project, we anticipate the construction to be somewhere around 32 to 33 months. So it will be a long project. So this is a snapshot of the CIP. This project, as I mentioned, is driven by growth and new development. We had budgeted $25.1 million for construction, which we're well under that budget at this point.
It's also driven by us being responsible for the joint management area for Leesburg.
Yes. So this is my last slide here before the motion. Any questions?
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, motion in front of you.
I'd like to make the motion. Chair, may I do that?
Okay.
I move the recommendation to the board to award the construction contract for the Russell Branch Sewer Pump Station project to Archer Western Construction Company, LCC, for $15,376,536 with an approximate 10% contingency to be controlled by the general manager for a total authorized budget of $16,914,000. Additional costs will require board approval.
Second.
Going to the consent.
16 million, you want to go to consent?
What do you think?
Vote. Action.
Action.
Well,
The action.
Okay.
Thank you.
Put it for action. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Going
Okay.
from 0.5 to 5 MGD. That's a big step.
One is approval of construction phase services task order for Russell Branch.
I am here to seek your approval on the task order for construction administration services for Russell Branch Sewer Pump Station project to HDR engineers. So this is a companion request that goes along with the award, the contract. A few slides here, Mr. Chairman, are duplicate slides from the other presentation, so I'll just skip through these slides unless anybody have any questions. Same scope. Just want to take a moment here to point out that, like I said, this is 33 months construction, and we're looking at the construction admin services from the consultant throughout the duration. So this will be a long-term service that the consultant will provide us. Jumping to this slide, just a little bit of background on why we need construction admin services on these projects. Loudon Water will have a dedicated construction team, construction managers and inspections working on the project. However, we leveraging consultant, the design engineer for the project, their expertise, and we will need their support during the execution of this contract, of this pump station project. Virginia Building Code and the county's building permit, there are some strict requirements when it comes to specialty inspections and testing requirements. The consultant, through a sub-consultant, so through their sub-consultant, will provide specialty inspection and testing services for this project. Bulk of their work would be review of submittals, and their work will help us ensure quality and compliance, contract compliance. Overall, through the use of construction admin services and leveraging our consultants' expertise, this will help us reduce, minimize liability and risk of Loudon Water's exposure to delays, potential claims, and mitigate poor contractor performance. Next slide here. This is relatively a big project. It touches onto like 15 plus different disciplines. On this slide, I have here kind of grouped the services into broadly into two categories: construction phase services and operational support. So construction phase services, which includes tasks like sub drawings review, inspection, testing, review of RFIs, potential change order claims review, stuff like that. Basically work that's needed for construction to get the pump station built. So that's the first set of services. And once built, the second set of services, operational support, that's where now this is getting ready to bring this facility into operations. A lot of startup and testing, training our staff, putting together operation and maintenance manual. So the second set of services is primarily to get this pump station ready for Loudon Water's acceptance.
Just a note, I like this slide.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm glad you use it.
Who will do the SCADA programming?
So the contractor will be responsible to do all programming within the fence, their construction. Back end on Loudon Water side, our in-house staff will do the programming to bring it to the SCADA. I want to note that I will be talking more about the fees on the next slide. This slide here, however, we wanted to show the breakdown of how this total fee breaks between construction phase services and operational. So the total fee that we have negotiated with HDR is $1.61 million, which is about 10.5% of the construction, the bid price. And the way it breaks out between the two phase of services is little over 9.5% for construction phase service and just under 1% for operational support.
Just a question, where do you divide the line between major infrastructure and minor facilities? What's the dividing line? In other words, at what point does a minor facility graduate into major infrastructure?
I would say something like this, a brand new pump station, 4.5 MGD pump station, and the dollar value associated to, I think that kind of qualifies it as larger. Savita will be bringing 2 other presentations where we're kind of doing minimal upgrades to existing pump station. Those would qualify as minor facilities. Savita, do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, I think it's just a combination of the project itself and the dollar value. So in this case, it's a new pump station and it's a large dollar value, so we would consider it a major infrastructure. It's a brand new pump station for us.
And sometimes just because of the scale of the project, there is economy of scale, which kind of is reflected on that range there is bigger the project, there is some economy of scale when it comes to CA services.
Yeah, I was wondering if you just had a strict dollar value when it goes above it. All right.
So this slide here is diving into the fees, but this is still a high level breakdown of the fee for the purpose of this presentation. The actual spreadsheet that we use is a lot more complicated. It has like 28, 30 different tasks and divided by its labor categories. So this, the scope and the fee here, we built this, this is built from the bottom. We looked at for every task, for example, how many meetings. So we looked at the project schedule, how many meetings we anticipate. A big chunk of cost here is submittal reviews. So the consultant has prepared this submittal log. We're looking at, the count stands at 462 submittals, and we are using industry standard metric, like about approximately 4 hours each submittal. We're estimating about a third of these submittals would require resubmittal. Again, like number of site visits. So this is built from the bottom, and where we felt comfortable at the end of the negotiation with the consultant, the fee we landed at $1.61 million, which is, like I said, 10.5% construction of the bid price. It's within the range of 7 to 11% that we have historically seen on our major infrastructure projects.
These are all billed hourly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I do want to make that the contract is a lump sum, that the previous task order. This one is this is being provided by our BOA consultant. This will be time and material with not to exceed fees. So on a monthly basis, our PMs will review the invoice. So there is another layer of review of the actual cost incurred on this.
Historically, Loudwater hasn't exceeded these.
Yes, and unless something we should not on this one too. This is the same CIP snapshot. So we budgeted 25.1. We are within that budget. So, and this is my last slide before I go to before I have the motion.
No additional questions?
No, any questions?
The motion in front of you, Mr. Chairman.
Been reading? Why don't you read it?
I'm happy to do that. I move the recommendation to the board to award a task order for construction administrative services for the Russell Branch Sewer Pump Station project to HDR for $1,610,000 with an approximate 5% contingency to be controlled by the general manager for a total authorized budget of $1,690,000. Additional costs will require board approval.
And what are we talking about? Should be consent?
Well, it goes with the other one. Is there any way to make it
Which way
just?
do you do it?
Can you do it
tack
as
to
a,
the
as
other-
a, I'm sorry, go ahead, Maureen.
Which way do you do it? Do you tack it to the other one or just let it stand by itself?
When you present it, can you present it as a package?
As a package?
I'm
can
not
try
sure
to
how
be-
much detail you have to go into. We have most of the board members online, so.
Mr. Sultan, I wanted to point out and observe even on the previous item, you know, the board and the committee has approved the CIP budget and we are well within the CIP budget for this set of projects.
So are you suggesting that we put both of them on consent? And if a board member wants to pull it off consent, they can?
I think that would be appropriate in this case. It's
You're
just a
talking about the
suggestion.
previous item also?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, let's put them both on consent.
Well, I would make a motion to put both of them on consent.
There. All in favor?
That makes sense, Joel?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was very good.
Okay, we're on to the next one. We're proceeding at pretty good pace. The design services task order for Brambleton 600 zone water pumping station.
Good morning. I'm here seeking approval for a preliminary engineering study for the Brambleton water booster station upgrades. So this is just a location map showing you where our 600 zone is, and then diving in a little deeper to where the Brambleton tanks are. There are 2 tanks, and the water booster pump station is located within one of those tanks. So this project is really primarily driven by growth in the 600 zone and development in that zone. Back in 2021, Hazen did a study on how we can better serve and increase the capacity in that zone. And there were three main things that came out of it, three recommendations. The first one was upgrades to the Dulles booster pump station, which we brought forward the construction project earlier this year. There was also some additional piping work, infrastructure work needed along Route 50, which we also brought forward this year. And then the last piece is upgrades to the Brambleton water booster pump station. And these are really needed to meet near-term demands and also increase the reliability and redundancy in this zone. So the scope of the work is anticipated to be very similar to the Dulles work, and so that's what this study is going to confirm. They're going to look at some surge analysis and hydraulic modeling, looking at replacing the existing jockey pumps with a new booster pump, replacing existing VFDs, installing a new PLC panel, and some other upgrades in the pump station. So the consultant is tasked with a number of different things. They're going to obviously go back and look at the existing as-built and modifications within the pump station. I know, over time, O&M will make changes within a pump station or a water booster station. So they're going to take a look at all of that. They'll identify some suitable pump models to replace the existing pumps, do some hydraulic model updates, and then develop some preliminary pumping and pipe layouts, review the electrical service adequacy, and then ultimately put together a report that'll provide recommendations for us as well as some cost estimates. So this is the fee breakdown, and just a reminder again, this is a preliminary report, so we will ultimately have another task order come forward with the full design, but this is the first start of that. And so I'll pause here. I think I have a schedule slide, and then we'll go to the motion. So I'll just pause to see if there's any questions on scope before we move forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do have one question.
Sure.
And it's, so in that Brambleton area, there are a number of schools that this feeds. And I'm sure the study will do that. The requirements of high schools, 3,000 and 2,500 gallons per minute, I think it is, for the middle schools, and these service those. So will this enhance the ability to meet that requirement?
Yes. So the study is anticipated to take about 6 months or so, and then we'll move forward with the design and then ultimately bid out a construction package. This is the CIP snapshot. So as I mentioned before, this is really primarily driven by growth and development in the 600 zone area, as well as an additional need for capacity and redundancy. And the 10-year CIP budget has $3.35 million for design and construction. With that, I have the motion.
Any questions?
Last
Well,
one.
as long as you're right.
All right, I have it in front of me. I move the recommendation to the board to award a preliminary engineering study task order for the Brambleton Water Booster upgrades to Hazen and Sawyer, Inc. for $146,500 with an approximate 5% of contingency to be controlled by the general manager for a total authorized budget of $154,000. Additional costs will require board approval. I further move that this be placed on the the consent agenda at our next board meeting.
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Thank you.
Next item, approval of study. We're zooming past these.
I'm sorry. Well, we're saving the best for last, right?
Yeah.
Lower Sickland.
Approval of study task order, North Lower Sickland Sewer Pumping Station upgrades.
So I am seeking approval of a task order for a North Lower Sickland Sewer Pump Station upgrades. So just another location map for you. The North Lower Sickland Pump Station is actually located on our Trap Rock campus, so just north of the Greenway and west of Goose Creek. And when the pump station was
Beautiful plan, isn't it?
It's a beautiful plant. It is a beautiful plant. When the pump station was originally designed and constructed, it was anticipated it would just convey process waste streams from Trap as the parcels directly around, adjacent to the campus. And the installed capacity is approximately 2 MGD, and there are some provisions in place for future expansion. However, back in 2019, this is sort of a refrain we keep bringing forward to you guys, JLMA came to Loudon Water, and we now have 2 new pump stations that are under construction that are going to convey flow to the North Lower Sycolin pump station, which were not anticipated when the pump station was originally designed and constructed. So the JLMA East, or the GCIP, Goose Creek Industrial, that's what we call it right now, that is under construction by Loudon Water, and the JLMA West SPS is under construction by a developer at this time. So both of those pump stations will convey flow to North Lower Sycolin, and we have been undergoing or looking at projections, upcoming projections, flow projections, and by 2027, we anticipate we're going to be about 1.7 MGD, so reaching the capacity of that pump station. By 2031, the projections show 6.5 MGD.
Even with all that construction, it'll happen that slowly?
Their projections, so it's inexact, right?
Yeah, I understand.
Right.
I just have driven along cross trails. And
There's
seen
a lot.
construction,
Yeah, there's a lot going on. So this is, again, the first phase of the work that we're going to be doing. We're intentionally breaking this one up because we need to kind of figure out what's happening at that pump station. So we're going to document the existing waste streams coming from TRAP, and also look at whether there are ways to sort of shave the peaks of the flow so that it's a little bit more consistent coming into the pump station. We're also going to do some field testing of the current capacity of that pump station. There is some concern by O&M that the pump station, while rated for 2 MGD, may not actually get 2 MGD, so we want to confirm that. And then we're going to look at what we can get out of that pump station without doing any major structural upgrades. So replacing impellers or replacing pumps, replacing piping, but not really expanding the footprint of that pump station. And then finally, we're going to do some force main or hydraulic surge analysis on the force main. We're going to do 2 different scenarios. The first scenario is the existing conditions, and then the second will be with the addition of a second force main, a parallel force main. There is some concern that the downstream conveyance is a bottleneck for this pump station. So this is the consultant's scope of work. It is similar to the last task order that I just presented. They'll be going over the existing pump station, looking at the as-builts, kind of figuring out any changes that might have been made to the pump station since it's been built. Then looking at different pumps that could potentially be used, updating the model, developing pump and pipe layouts for us, looking at any bottlenecks or things that we may cause concern, and then preparing conceptual layouts and a report for us with some recommendations and cost estimates. So we will have to bring forward a second task order ultimately for the design. So here is the fee breakdown. Again, you can see that the force main surge analysis number is a bit higher than the rest of the task, but that's because we're doing multiple scenarios and looking at some future options. And then this is the project schedule. So again, about a 6-month study period before we get into the design, and then ultimately into the bid and award of construction. And here is our CIP snapshot. So for this study, we actually had budgeted $180,000 for this phase, and the task order is coming in below that. With that, I have the motion. Any questions?
Any questions?
Okay. I move the recommendation to the board to award a study task order for the North Lower Sycolin Sewer Pump Station upgrades to CDM Smith for $159,660 with an approximate 5% contingency to be controlled by the general manager for the total authorized budget of $168,000. Additional costs will require board approval. Further move that this be placed on the consent agenda at the next board meeting.
I second that motion. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Now, here comes the biggie. We don't, I don't think we need a break. We're not even. Okay, approval of design services task order, completion of design task 2, Broad Run Water Reclamation Facility Phase 3. You're on.
All right, good morning. So knowing that we were going to be bringing this design task order to you now, we spent a lot of time at the recent board workshop on the background of Phase 3 and why we are moving forward with this project. So we are going to give you a little bit of a program update, but the focus today is really going to be on contracting and task orders that we've already issued to help really set the stage on this task order and what will be coming in the future. I have a lot to talk about on our construction costs. We are going to bring you along on the journey on this very long capital program on what we're seeing with construction costs as we prepare for bidding some of the largest capital infrastructure that Loudon Water has undertaken. And then we will end with the actual design task. So just in brief summary, this is the overall scope of the Phase 3 expansion. So everything in a shade of blue will be all either new or modified facilities. And the large takeaway from this is just, it is a major expansion in footprint because we are doubling the capacity of the facility. We will at times have to come back and modify infrastructure within the existing facility, but that is us taking advantage of concrete or infrastructure that's already there. So we tend to get cost savings when we can come back and modify here. Our new greenfield construction is where the majority of the cost lays in this project, and it really is a lot of concrete. So it's different from Phase 2, where we were really modifying a lot of existing facilities, buying new equipment, but we didn't put a lot of new infrastructure in. This is large scale, and as you know, we offer our tours and go out, we really are utilizing a large portion of the available land on our site with this expansion. So we've started to modify what we typically show the board as our traditional process flow diagram for Broad Run. Historically, we had shown you this line right down the middle because this encompasses all the primary treatment processes to treat water, which we went through in a lot of detail. What we're going to continue to show you is what we're building in each package. And if a facility is new and we're pouring new concrete to get there, we've shown it, and this is all on the north side of the site, off to the side, our new facilities. If we've highlighted it in blue, we're going to come back and modify those existing facilities to get expanded capacity. And so package 2 today is focusing on our solids treatment capacity. This is the most time critical aspect of the Phase 3 project. So we broke it out in the first construction package. We have historically seen our loading to the plant increasing higher than flows. So by building this infrastructure, we are increasing our treatment capacity. We're just not going to permit it yet. There's no need to process more flow urgently, but we do need to be able to process more solids. Back in the planning phases, when we started seeing that we were going to need more digestion capacity, we made the decision to move to building a thermal dryer instead of a digester. This is not only an expansion of capacity, it is also an advancement in treatment. We will produce a higher class of biosolids. So we will go from class B to class A. We will produce a dried pelletized product, which is much more not beneficial, but attractive to potential land appliers, as well as reducing the total amount of material that must be hauled, which greatly reduces our operating costs. So the overall schedule for the overall Phase 3 program we talked to you about previously. This is longer than our current 10-year CIP to get all of this infrastructure built. Package 1 is the site work. That is getting a contractor out there to level the site, get stormwater control in place, and have everything prepared for the large scale work. That is already under design. That design contract was issued in early or late 2022. And as part of that task that we issued, we also said we want to just do 30% of the package 2 design. And the reason why we wanted to take a small chunk is a little bit like some of Savita's studies. It was to make sure we were firm on the scope that we wanted in package 2. The more certainty we can get, the more we can bring in those design fees. If we move forward to a design with a lot of unknowns, your consulting engineers say, well, I have to have more alternatives in 60% or 90%, yes.
Don't you need that in order to do the site work?
We were able to identify how much space we would need in our early planning tasks that were already completed. So there won't be any more change in the site prep. But just to clarify, that's not putting pipe in the ground. That is just earthwork.
Earthwork.
Yes, package 2 contractor will come back and put pipe in the ground. So you could say, oh, are we removing earth? We have limited that as much as possible. So when we smooth out grade, we're going to be within 2 feet of grade. We're not going complete to finished grade. So we're going to minimize what he has to come back in and take out. But if you recall out there, there's large stockpiles. There's a lot of movement. We do slope downwards towards broad runs. So the back end of the plant has to be brought up so that there's this, a large flat surface for us to work from. So today, what we're going to be looking at is getting to 100% design on design task 2 and bidding that package. This is about a 22-month period that we're going to be working on this. And then we will come back in late 2026 with the bidding and construction award of that first package. So our request for design task 2 want to dig into a little more detail on what is actually in package 2. So we talk about solids processing, but it is a large majority of the new facilities going into the north. It's space for our biological reactors and our membrane treatment, and a very large building for the thermal drying facility. This is a very mechanically intensive process that is going to be one of the largest structures going in on site. We also have new supporting facilities. So we have chemical facilities that must go in to support this new treatment, as well as odor control and what is called a plant waste basin. This takes all the recycle flows from this facility, sends them back to the head of the plant so it can go through for retreatment. All of the flow that is processed up here will still follow our traditional process from our influent pump station, come around through preliminary primary treatment and over and split. Some will go to our north facility and some will go to our south facility. All solids will then be sent to the north for treatment. So there will be modifications in our existing solids facilities to tie in this new dewatering and drying facility.
You will also collect the ethane to power the dryer?
Absolutely. So all of that biogas system will still be existing down here. Part of the movement that we can make with the thermal drying system is we can actually optimize digestion here to get that methane. Methane will be used for the dryer, but the dryer won't run 24/7. The dryer has to have downtime periods for maintenance, and our dryer now is sized for capacities in the future. So when it is not running, the digester gas will still be used to run the boilers on the south side. So we are maintaining flexibility to do both wherever that gas is needed. This system also requires a scrubber system on the digester gas to improve the quality of that gas. Our existing system will benefit from that. We're tying that in so that those boilers also become less maintenance intensive and easier to run. So as we make these benefits and upgrades to get to a higher level of quality, the existing facility starts to benefit from that. Another good example of that is odor control. All of our odor control on site is down south. Through our alternatives evaluations that we've been doing in the 30% design, We are doing more centralized, smaller odor control systems. That is going to relieve this system from having to take total odors and really be able to allow this odor control system to handle this drier building. Makes it easier for us to operate. We don't have to balance airflow, and we get better odor control out of it.
There is no excess methane, and it's used 100% within the plant?
No, there is still excess methane that is flared right now because we don't have the heating demand. It will be similar with the dryer, because the dryer does not need the gas all the time. And the cost to store gas is very costly at this point versus just filling in with natural gas.
So you flare the excess?
Yes, but the more capacity we have and the more that system builds out, the more of that gas we will use. So the construction cost is one of the largest challenges administratively with this project right now. We have, getting this designed and built, but we want to make sure that the board understands what is going on with the cost of phase 3, because when we bring forward the 10-year CIP, there are a lot of discussions about the increases seen recently in the CIP. Much of that is driven by what happens with the phase 3 construction. The majority is the JLMA as well. And what we are experiencing is the highest level of cost inflation that really any of us have seen. And phase 3 came along at a very tough time in the construction industry to experience this. So in 2022, we were wrapping up the planning phase. We decided how much of a capacity we needed as phase 3 and what technology we were going to build. That is your first level estimate. All of these were done per the AACE cost estimating guidelines. And at a planning level, you have to use parametric costs. And we've talked to you all a couple of times about this, but it is saying in the past, it cost Loudoun Water X number of dollars per million gallon of membrane capacity. We looked at other utilities, dryer facilities. It cost them X number of dollars for dryer capacity, and we scaled that and came up with, for package 2, a planning level cost of $200 million. Per the cost estimating guidelines, that has a very large plus or minus window on it because it is just parametric. There weren't any building layouts that you could give a cost estimator, no footprints or even building material types so people could give us a detailed estimate. So as part of design task 1, we developed the basis of design report, and this was for the overall phase 3 project. But at that level, which was mid 2023, the package 2 cost more than doubled. We saw a cost of $491 million. And we gave the board an informational item update about mid 2023, really introducing the concept that we had seen large scale escalation of costs based on what we originally had at the planning level. This is where the Loudoun Water team has done an amazing job of putting in place cost management tools. The first cost management tools was breaking up these packages. We wanted package 2 to be mission critical, time critical infrastructure, and to really evaluate what can we delay until we see where construction costs might come in for the rest of that capacity. So between just the original cost estimate we got in and the revised basis of design report, we were able to reduce $100 million in scope. That was pure scope removal from package 2 into later packages of the design. And that gave us our new estimated cost of $384 million at the basis of design. So really with those deferral efforts, we hadn't done detailed alternatives of where else might Loudoun Water be able to build more efficiency. So that was one of the things we brought forward to you with our 30% design package, is we really wanted to dig into some alternative evaluations, like the odor control story that I told you, like architectural features that Broad Run might have that just add cost and maybe not even make the buildings look nice. So when tasking ourselves with this 30% design, we were really hoping that we were going to be able to bring the board a cost number that had gone down to show you our efforts we had done to, again, further reduce scope in this construction package. And we got our cost estimate back about 2 weeks ago and saw that the cost did not go down, it went up. What has happened is our window is still continuing to narrow. This cost estimate is more accurate than what we had in the basis of design report. But between these two numbers, we did remove another $30 million in base scope through savings of changing our odor control approach, challenging some of our architectural building materials while still maintaining the overall look of that facility. We've looked at concrete in specific. We are putting in 4 times more concrete in this than we did in phase 2. So it became a really big challenge. How can we do this with less physical structure? So we moved buildings around, combined buildings where possible. So all of our efforts in hoping to show that we could reduce costs really allowed those costs to maintain. And the inflation that we're seeing is nationwide. There is, labor issues and material issues, but we also have an inflation situation in Northern Virginia, particularly around electrical work. And with new facilities like this, a large portion of this is electrical infrastructure. And there's really only 1, possibly 2 electrical subcontractors even bidding large scale work like this. So what we also saw between these 2 numbers was our cost estimator saying, the same electrical scope you gave us here, we think it might cost twice what it really is based on recent bids coming in. The other reference I can give you is we keep looking at these concrete costs because it is so high. It is 100% more than the concrete costs that we got in the phase 2 expansion. So the majority of what we're doing here is seeing a lot of cost escalation, but also if you consider the Russell Branch pump station costs, where we saw a 15 million to a 25 million bid spread, even the contractors are struggling to deal with the uncertainty right now, and so are our cost estimators. So there is a large portion of contingency still residing in this number because the cost estimators are dealing with the same level of uncertainty.
Is the increased power or electrical cost generated by the demand for data centers? Is there a tie in there?
It could very well be data centers. There's also a drive in water infrastructure right now in the same contractors that we're using, but it is just construction in general in Northern Virginia, and not having a lot of competition right now in electrical. So to move off of our construction cost estimating, but I'm sorry, to bring back our summary here, our goal is to get package 2 out and bid in early 2026, right? A lot of these numbers moving and being unable to bring the numbers down is uncertainty. The cost estimators won't know, and really the contractors won't know either until we get this package out to them and bid it. So our current approach is, 1, we have been reaching out to contractors to understand what we can do in this design package to make this as attractive as possible to them so we get competition. Competition will be the best thing for the final number that comes in on this package. One of the pieces of feedback we got is they need enough time to bid it. This is a lot of work. So if we try to escalate time, because we do need this infrastructure online in time, we have to give them enough time to bid so that they can get it together and have the confidence, because they put a lot of work in on a bid, that they're going to put that work in and be able to get there at the end of our period. So we will continue to communicate with that group of contractors out there that do this type of work to make sure that they are interested, aware, and we can do what it takes to get them on board with this project. But Once we see where that bid comes in, it gives us the ability to come back and look at all of phase 3. Instead of continuing to carry these large contingencies, we'll have a better idea what the rest of this expansion will look like once we bid it, and can come back to the board and say, this is where we think overall program costs will be.
Kendra, Mr. Moody has a question.
Absolutely.
Yes, hi, Kendra. Wanted to ask a question. When you mentioned reaching out to vendors, are you putting out, like, I know in the federal government, RFI, request for information, is it a formalized process, or are you reaching out directly, independently, just based off the contractors that you know? Just curious about the process.
Yes, this is not a formal RFI process. This is just talking to the community, reaching out to who we know, and informally getting their input. When you get a group of contractors in a formal situation, they tend to be a lot more restrictive on what type of information that they will share.
Since there's some, I guess, concerns about, or do you envision putting out an RFI at a later date, or is that not on the table, you know, from contracts?
I think it is something that we could explore more if it is felt, but this project will be publicly bid. So it does go through a bidding process.
Thank you. Yeah, no, just curious. I know a lot of things go through bidding, but sometimes, you know, just to get clarity and get some of the vendors' insights, which it looks like you're doing the mechanisms of reaching out to individual contractors. I just didn't know if you were going to formalize it to an RFI process.
Okay.
Mr. Moody, if I'm understanding you correctly, perhaps you're speaking of a pre-qualification process?
It's typically just done to, not really a pre-qualification, but just to get solicited information from the vendor community to potentially improve your solicitation in the requirement that you're asking, because industry may have some different thoughts or things that Loudon Water hasn't considered when we, in the requirement.
Okay, thank you. That's certainly something that we can take a look at. Absolutely.
Would it be helpful to have like a reverse industry day, kind of like an open house, where there is not a formal pre-bid meeting, but more of a casual, like?
We call it a contractor breakfast.
Yeah.
Is
that works.
what we tend to do for that.
Is there any thought about a different bid process, like CMAR or something like that?
So it has been evaluated with our consultant, but those processes do not really bring cost control. They can help with schedule or collaboration, but we feel at this point we have a very firm idea of scope that we would like to construct. So to really get the lowest possible construction price, we feel the design bid build process is best for this package. If schedule becomes a concern with future packages, we are still open to considering that in order to move forward various pieces possibly at different times, but not to bring the construction cost down.
So you have looked at it?
Yes, and actually between, you know, the ongoing quarry project going through CMAR and our progressive design build with the community systems ammonia upgrades, our staff right now has had a lot of experience to really understand how those tools work from Loudon Water and see when we would get benefit from them and when we might not. Okay, so we will continue to bring you updates on the construction costs and possibly even industry updates as we're seeing what's things like going on with electrical. But today is actually just about the design fee to get package 2 to 100% design. So similar to the other projects that you've seen today, this is a summary of that very large fee, but we do get these fees in breakdowns of individual task line items, number of hours per staff, and have gone through and spent a lot of time working through each of these line items to get it to a level that we feel is appropriate for the work being done. So project management is within a normal range of 20 to 25% of this project, but we went through and did meeting by meeting, how many meetings do we think we're going to need, what level of coordination is required. 60 and 90% design is the bulk of the work. This is approximately 20 FTEs working throughout those design periods to provide really the detailed design, so our structural design, our electrical design, but they're also producing the plans and specifications at that stage. For this contract, that will be 2,000 construction drawings, over 500 specifications for all the facilities that will be designed. So while these are within normal ranges, they're just much larger dollar values due to the scale of the infrastructure we're looking at. Some numbers that are a little more unique with this contract are the bottom two. So our other direct costs typically cover in a design things like our consultant traveling to our office, site visits, that sort of stuff. This number is higher than typical because we have included physical scale modeling of a specific pump station in this facility. And so when you consider building a 15 million gallon per day treatment facility, the return activated sludge pump station is actually pumping 60 million gallons. This would be one of the largest pump stations that we've constructed. And by doing scale physical modeling, we can ensure we are working on any small flow anomalies or vibration issues in the design so that it doesn't impact construction. One of the hardest problems to solve is installing a pump and it having vibration issues and trying to figure it out after the fact. So this is money invested in the design to help the construction go better. So you often comment on our really low construction change orders. Doing this type of work to make sure construction stays on schedule and we don't have to troubleshoot in the field really contributes to higher quality construction in the end. Subcontracts is also higher for this line item, and that is because when we did the original selection for the phase 3 design, we selected a consultant team. So our team is Hazen and Sawyer as the prime consultant and Black and Veatch as their sub. So this number is higher because you have the sub-consultant work occurring in there. Black and Veatch is doing our cost estimating. They are doing the chemical and odor control facility design. So it is just a different breakout of fees that were in here, but by having multiple consultants involved in this job, we were able to increase the manpower. Again, because this is such a large scale undertaking, having more engineers available to do that work allows us to keep it on schedule. So our overall value for this contract is $24 million, but to do a typical evaluation, just to make sure we're in the right scale for the infrastructure, you need to add the initial 30% design we did was about $6 million of that design task one. So this gives us a total design fee for this package of $30 million. Our current construction cost estimate at $395 million puts us at 7.7% of the construction value. This is the lower end of those ranges that Amelia was showing, but it is because the infrastructure is so big, we would expect to see that economy of scale. But what we brought forward.
I have one other question, excuse me. Could you repeat what Black and Veatch's role is?
So they are essentially doing design engineering work. It's just we wanted two firms involved. So they are doing 60, 90, and 100% design on the chemical facilities that were shown and the odor control. They are also doing all of the cost estimating.
Oh, okay. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's perfectly fine. It's just, it's a big number that normally would have been mixed in up here. So we pulled Loudoun water infrastructure that we felt was similar to this type of work. So it's really all of our treatment plant work. Maybe a little bit to your question before of, do we break things out, from what is, smaller scale or modifications? Really building a treatment plant is different than building the Russell Branch pump station. So we wanted to take projects with similar levels of complexity. So we brought the TRAP design, which was original greenfield design of a water treatment plant, to construction cost at the 30% estimate, because that's what we have right now is our 30% estimate. The design fee was about 12%. Now, when you get to a final construction cost, that cost estimate can either go up or down. So we always come back and check and say, well, the design, what was it based off the total of what we spent? So because TRAP's cost went up, that design fee went down a little bit, but it's still within that range of 7 to 11%. Broad Run, through its original construction, we had the interim biosolids project where we put in 2 new digesters, our phase 2 expansion. They've all been in the realm of 8%. Again, the original construction of Broad Run was thought to be 134 million. It ended up at 190. So that percentage came way down in the end. For package 3 thus far, we have already brought forward the design for package 1. That was about 1.2 million. That site work is currently estimated at 10 million, so it's 11%. But this is a good example of, it is just smaller construction work, so the administrative effort becomes a larger percent when you do less. We're seeing the economy of scale on the larger Broad Run costs. The risk we always run is, what if this construction number is high, right? What if it bids at 300 million? We are still, at a 10% range. We're still within a normal range of what we would expect to spend for a design fee. And again, part of what contributes to us being able to bring construction in with low levels of change orders is good design. The money we spend now typically saves a lot more than we would save if we try to drive that down in getting a good design done, so there's not a lot of changes in the field and we don't have those construction change orders over 5%. So we always want to make sure we're spending enough on design, that we get good work done, but not too much. So we do want to try to stay in that range. And so I have a motion for you, which I am absolutely sure will go on the action agenda, but.
Lots of issues.
Are there any questions?
Yep. I move the recommendation to the board to authorize the general manager to execute an amendment to the professional services contract with Hazen and Sawyer for the Broad Run water reclamation facility phase 3 expansion project for design task 2 100% design with an estimated not to exceed costs of $24,718,000 and authorize an approximate 5% contingency to be controlled by the general manager for the total authorized budget not to exceed $26 million. Additional costs will require board approval. I further move that this go on the consent agenda at the next board meeting.
Is it a big enough item? Should it go on consent or should it go on action?
It's in the CIP. We've talked about this a lot, and we've talked about it at all the other meetings. If a board member wants to pull it off, they can pull it off.
Yeah.
And I'm
Feel
sure.
the same way?
Unless we're exceeding any of the thresholds already approved in the CIP, I think.
Yeah.
All right.
And this is recorded, and any board member can watch it also. So.
Okay, I second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So this will go on consent.
Unless somebody pulls it. That's very good. Yeah.
As usual, I understood what you said. Okay, the next item, we're past an hour. I assume nobody wants to take a break, I assume.
I would love to have a cup of coffee.
Want to take a 5-minute break?
Anybody else need a break? And I'll just make the coffee while you continue.
Okay. Okay, the next item is award of a contract for the pre-procurement of the Broad Run Water Reclamation Phase 3 project membranes.
All right, good morning. My name is Rick Zafel, and I'm going to talk us through this last presentation here for the pre-selection or pre-procurement of membranes for the Package 2 project. So my agenda for this morning, I'm going to talk about justification for why we're pre-selecting, and then justification for using a sole source as well. We'll look at the membrane pre-selection schedule and then see how that kind of ties into the package 2 project schedule. And then we'll review our cost components for the pre-selection and then wrap it up with the motion. Okay, so why are we pre-selecting membranes? So the membrane process, this is a key component of the package 2 project. And from the last presentation, Kendra mentioned that solids was one of the key portions of the package 2 project, and then the membranes or the biological improvements were the other key or large component of the package 2 project. And so the membranes themselves, it's a very highly specialized equipment package. So in addition to the hollow fiber membranes that you see here in the tank as well, you also have a lot of ancillary equipment such as pumps, valves, instruments, process control equipment, control panels, and also a compressed air system as well. And then all of this equipment has to tie into other facilities that are connected to it that are provided by other suppliers, such as an air scour blower system, and then also a chemical system as well. So again, this is a very complicated, specialized equipment package. And so the benefit of the pre-selection is it gives you the early shop drawings that you can take, and we will take and incorporate into the design of the package 2 project. And it allows us to have consistency of design. We don't have to have an open design that's able to accommodate multiple vendors. We can really focus that design on the single vendor and just have that consistency throughout the design process. It also, the pre-selection process establishes clear lines of responsibility between the pre-selection vendor and the contractor in terms of who's responsible for what aspects of the project. And then the beauty of the pre-selection process is the contractor still handles all the equipment. Through this process, Loudon Water doesn't take possession of the actual equipment in this process. The contractor ultimately takes possession of it and is responsible for installing it. So we don't have to own or furnish anything through this process, which is very beneficial.
So any warranties relate to the contract?
Through the contractor, that's correct.
So we pre-authorize this vendor and we pay for it.
So I'm gonna get to that. I'll get to that. We should be able to answer that through the coming slides here. No. Okay. So the next big question is why sole source Veolia membranes? So the hollow fiber membranes, you see the photo right here. These are the hollow fiber membranes that were installed in the original Broad Run construction. The same type of membranes are being installed in the phase 2 construction, which is underway right now. And then the plan is to install these same membranes as part of the package 2 project, which is part of the phase 3 construction. And just real quick on the vendor name. So originally these membranes were installed by GE. GE Xenon was the manufacturer of them. They were bought by Suez at some point in the past. So the phase 2 project, these are Suez membranes, same membranes, but just under Suez. Now Veolia has brought Suez, and so they're Veolia membranes. Again, same membranes, just different company. We've had a couple company switches here as we've moved forward. That's correct. So back to our question. So why sole source Veolia membranes? Because this was a sole source pre-selection. And again, my subsequent slides will talk through that a little bit more. But why sole source? So again, this is it's a complex and proprietary technology. It's been at Loudon Water for 16 years. So we have a good history of successful treatment with these membranes, which are a very important component of the treatment process. This is a proven vendor that has shown that they're able to mass produce these membranes and provide them in large quantities for a large capital project, such as the package 2 project. Also, in going with this vendor, we would not have to pilot or spend additional effort piloting other vendors, or again, leave the design open for other vendors. So again, it allows us to focus and have the concentrated design. And then also Other reasons for sole sourcing, just familiarity with operations and maintenance and the standardization or consistency of spare parts. It helps to foster that as well for us. All right, so the pre-selection schedule. So what did this pre-selection look like? So it started with an RFP that was drafted the second half of last year, and we finalized it and issued the RFP in the first quarter of this year. And that RFP was issued to Veolia. This was a sole source pre-selection. And so in the second quarter, we received Veolia's proposal and have been in negotiations with Veolia for several weeks, with the goal here to award the contract to Veolia to pre-select these membranes. And then looking forward here, how this would play out once the pre-selection contract, once we enter the pre-selection contract here, is that there are two parts to the pre-selection contract. The first part is the special engineering services or the shop drawings that I mentioned on the first slide about why we would pre-select. And so those shop drawings, we would receive those from Veolia, and they would be incorporated into the design. And so that's the time frame for part one, where we're calling it special engineering services or shop drawings that would be incorporated into the design. And then we would go out for bid in the mid-2026 timeframe through the end of that year. And then in construction, the second part of the pre-selection takes effect. And that is the equipment is fabricated, brought to the site and installed. And so that second part of the pre-selection all happens under the contractor's control. That's the piece that's assigned to the general contractor. So they're responsible for the equipment, for getting it to the site, making sure it's fabricated and installed correctly.
And the cost is included in the bid document.
The cost is included in the contract price with the general contractor. That's correct. Okay, so getting to our costs here. So again, just the two parts. The cost for the shop drawings or the special engineering services is the not to exceed 100,000 number. And then the second part, which is the equipment, is the 7.6 million number, and that's the piece that is assigned to the general contractor to be provided during construction. And you may be asking, well, how do we know that we got a good price since this was sole sourced? And I have a little bit of information to share with you on that. So as compared to the 2018 membrane pre-selection, which is now being constructed under the phase 2 project, we actually got a lower price per square foot on this procurement than we did in 2018. And yes, yeah. And so, and square feet is one of the key determiners for how much capacity the membranes deliver. So cost per square foot is a very common measure in determining the unit cost of these membranes. So we're getting a lower price now. The 2018 pre-selection, it was competitive, it was open. This one, however, is a sole source. Yeah, so we're getting a little bit better price on the membranes. And the membranes do represent the majority of this 7.6 million. So any other questions on the cost? Or the pre-selection process and how it works and how it plays out through
I
construction?
think all of your reasonings I fully agree with the fact that Fairfax, we did pre-selection many times. The only question I have is it possible there's a better quality membrane out there that you haven't looked at? I mean, have you looked at although I agree with your reasoning to be consistent with the same kind of membrane, but I'm just curious, is there a better mousetrap?
It might be possible, but the effort it would take to bring that into Broad Run and incorporate that into the project or in the process and then become familiar with it would be monumental.
As I understand it, the different, I'm sorry. As I understand it, the different manufacturers use different interconnects, and they're not interchangeable.
Correct.
So you have to select in your early in design process how you're going to build it.
Every system
that
is
correct?
a little bit different. Yeah.
And so just to add to that, we did during the planning phase of phase 3, reconsider, these are called hollow fiber membranes, right? So it's the tube with the hole in the middle. There's not a lot of manufacturers available for hollow fiber membranes. It's very specialized. And as we saw in the original, when we did this in 2018, only one other wanted to compete with these Suez membranes. They are the majority of what is out there. Advancements in membranes are different types. So there are now ceramic sheet membranes, none of which are established enough to say at this scale, you could just jump right to it, which is why Rick is saying we would have to pilot and reassure ourselves. And the benefit that we could possibly get from those is a reduction in footprint. And since we have available land to build at this, the driver for a reduced footprint really wasn't there to say, let's risk a new technology, but we do know what those benefits might be. It's not a treatment quality benefit. It really is a how much membrane could you fit in a square foot is what people are getting at. And that driver just wasn't there for us in the early level planning. So we said, for this facility, it makes complete sense to move forward with what we have.
When would the membrane be delivered?
So
you had that in the other slide.
yeah, let me go back.
Yeah.
So it would be in the middle stages of construction. So in the year 2028, 2029, that's when they would be arriving at the site for installation.
So would we be paying the money before it's delivered?
Not for the membranes, no.
Not for the membranes.
Only for the special engineering services.
Only for the special engineering.
That's correct.
Okay.
Only for the special engineering.
Got it.
Yeah, so really all the board is approving today to expend is the $100,000. And we've just pre-negotiated the $7 million that the contractor will pay.
Right, yeah. The procurement agreement that captures all this, it will certainly list that second part, but again, that's a future item. That's a 2028, 2029 timeframe
And
item.
between now and then, if there is a major breakthrough in the technology, even using the same form factor, we would benefit from that.
And we did that in the 2018 procurement. We upgraded to a newer model of membrane during
That became
construction.
available.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just
Smart.
curious, how many other competitors exist in this ecosystem? Is it one other? Is it 5 others?
Yeah.
At this scale, you could say it's 1 or 2. And that's why, when we did competitively bid it, only one of them even wanted to bid, and they were much more expensive.
That's right.
But it's just such a specialized product, and at this bigger scale, it's tough market.
Thank you.
Just one out of curiosity, where's this stuff manufactured?
It's Canada, well, their headquarters is in Canada.
I'm not
But I think
actually sure where their
they're,
manufacturing
yeah, I
facility
think they're getting materials from different locations. I'm not sure if it's actually manufactured there or another
just curious.
location, but the headquarters is Canada.
Pretty cool.
Okay. So.
Yep.
Got my motion
Here we go.
here.
Questions you want to?
I have no more questions. I move the recommendation to the board to approve award of a contract for design of the Broad Run Water Reclamation Facility, Phase 3, Package 2 membranes to Viola for $100,000. In addition, I move the recommendation of the board to approve an award of a contract for the Broad Run Reclamation Water Facility, Phase 3, Package 2, membrane equipment and services to Viola for $7,636,280, which will be assigned to a general contractor. Further move that this be placed on the consent agenda at the next board meeting.
I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the only thing left over was a capital spending summary report, which I looked at. Looks like we're dead on. I doubt that there'll be any questions. I think it was 96%, if I remember correctly. I can't believe it. It's
Gosh, it's.
an hour and a half and we got through everything. Anybody have any other questions or whatever?
What's up on our next meeting in August, right? We have another meeting in August? Yeah, what's on the agenda for that?
So the tentative agenda right now is another task order for Paonian, and this would be the design, the actual design. And so this tentative, obviously, another pre-procurement for phase 3, and then potentially the preliminary engineering report task order for the expansion of Trap Rock, and then obviously the informational reports.
Another 90 to 2-hour meeting.
Hopefully not that long, but we
No,
did a good
looking
job
Well,
today.
thank
Yeah?
you so much for putting out the information and the reminders to pre-read. So we appreciate
Yeah,
that.
that was very well done.
Yeah.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes. So
I'll
moved,
second.
sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unbelievable.
Thank you very much.
Everybody
Yeah.
have a happy and safe 4th of July.